Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire, sitting in for David today. If you want more from me, you can find me on YouTube on my two channels, youtube.com/TheRingOfFire and youtube.com/FarronBalanced. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at FarronBalanced on all three accounts. Easy enough to find, right? Let's get right back into some of today's top stories. One of the ones that I definitely have to talk about here, mostly because, look, I'm sitting in Florida's 1st Congressional District. My congressman is Matt Gaetz, one of the most embarrassing members of Congress out there. And Matt Gaetz is having a tough go of it recently. Obviously embroiled in this potential, underage sex trafficking scandal. Still under investigation for that. Now, last week, of course, and I believe Jesse Dollemore, who was filling in for Pakman, talked about this a little, so I'm only going to hit on this part briefly. But yes, last week we found out that Joel Greenberg, the former Seminole County tax collector, has been cooperating with federal authorities, giving them thousands of pages. That includes pictures, and of course there's some videos mixed in there as well. Text messages, private conversations, all kinds of information, some of it that does appear to directly implicate Matt Gaetz in this scandal. So that's really bad for him. But even that aside, let's assume for a moment that Matt Gaetz wasn't under investigation and Matt Gaetz was still going about doing his Matt Gaetz stuff. Believe it or not, here in Florida's very red 1st Congressional District, things are not all rosy for Matt Gaetz. In fact, Republicans in this district are growing tired of his antics. They're getting tired of the fact that the guy, as one Republican put it, actually a Republican who plans the primary Gaetz, says, he's everywhere but here. Matt Gaetz is neglecting his district. And one former party chair from this area expressed his concern, saying that we need somebody that actually cares. We need somebody that comes back. Matt Gaetz has not held an event in this district since March. So here we are, over 5 months later, and Matt Gaetz has been out to California. He's been in the Midwest. He's been in the Southeast or Southwest. He's been in South Florida. He's been everywhere but here, as they say. He doesn't want to come home. Now, don't get me wrong. Matt Gaetz still enjoys a lot of support in this district. And barring any indictments against him, he's going to win re-election. That is a given. The point is there's cracks in the facade. Just a few cracks at this point, but those cracks are growing. And the Republicans here, Republicans with a voice, are starting to get annoyed by the fact that he is neglecting this district. We had last year Hurricane Sally come through here. Sally knocked out a bridge that was the main artery for traffic between two cities. Actually, my city right here and where my actual Ring of Fire studio is. So we had to drive an hour out of the way because that bridge was gone. All of those businesses on either end of that bridge ended up closing down, some permanently, some temporarily. That bridge, which was knocked out, I believe last September is when the storm came through, was only reopened the last week of May of this year. Millions of dollars in economic revenue lost because the bridge got knocked down. We had Republican state leaders coming here all the time, talking about it, trying to hold the company Skanska accountable because they actually had left their barges not tied up when the hurricane came through, and those barges are what got swept into the bridge and knocked it down. So those Republicans came here, acted like they cared. Matt Gaetz was nowhere to be seen. His district was literally in crisis following a hurricane. Dude didn't care. Wasn't out here demanding justice, wasn't out here trying to fight Skanska for their neglect over there. Nothing. Just going on Fox News as frequently as possible, which he's not even welcome there anymore. Because that's what Matt Gaetz wants to do. And that's what people in this district need to understand. I firmly believe that Matt Gaetz' end goal is not to be president of the United States. Heck, it's not even to be a senator. He doesn't care as much about political power. What he cares about is fame and popularity. That is why, obviously, earlier this year, we had all those reports of Matt Gaetz reaching out to networks saying, hey, would you hire me as a pundit? Would you hire me as a talking head? Can I have a show? That's why 2 weeks ago, he launched his new podcast, video podcast, Firebrand with Matt Gaetz. That's what the guy wants to do. He wants this. And Matt, buddy, let me tell you, man, if this is what you want, resign. Or simply don't run for re-election. Just let the clock run out and go and be the bestest Republican talking head you can be. Get yourself a camera. We already know you built a studio in your dad's house. Use that studio. Put your videos on YouTube. I'm sure you would gain millions of subscribers in a matter of weeks. You'd make a ton of money having that many people follow you. You could sell subscriptions. You could get advertisers. You could do whatever the heck you wanted. You would have more money and fame than you could ever imagine. And after all, isn't that what you want? But instead, in order to get to that point, you're taking up a congressional seat. You're literally getting nothing done in Washington, D.C. You're traveling the country with one of the most despised members of Congress out there, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You're an embarrassment to this district and to the entire state of Florida. And you're doing it all so you can build up your brand so that you can hopefully sell it when you leave office. If, of course, you're not sitting in a jail cell by the time it all comes crashing down. That's the problem that Matt Gaetz faces. But don't worry, folks. This district is safe for Republicans, and I think that's why they're not putting up that much of a stink right now. If they thought they had a Democrat that could come along and win this district, they would absolutely be encouraging Gaetz to step down, get replaced by a different Republican, so that they could put all their eggs in that basket. But they know that whatever happens to Gaetz, a Republican will come behind him and win the seat regardless, or Gaetz himself will continue to win it. That's why they're not worried.